Welcome in to the latest episode of the NFL podcast on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network. I'm your host, real_G Warner, rocking a Christian McCaffrey jersey because the game will be played in San Francisco. Unfortunately, the 49ers are not going to be there. And Schwarzenegger, you're on the other side. You're 2-1 in these playoffs. How are you feeling entering this Super Bowl Sunday?
I feel good. Is it 5G facilities that we're worried about over there?
For the
Is it?
injuries of the San Francisco 49ers team in
Yeah.
general?
Yes. I
I
can
don't know.
just
Aren't they up to
I
6G in Silicon Valley? Isn't
I
that how
don't.
they pay all those
Yeah,
players?
you're probably right. It's probably something more extreme, something that we've never even heard of. Anyways, there's nothing around like that around my house. That's why I keep winning. So
Just
happy to report
just no
that.
no service at all. I mean, I'm glad you got on your way to this podcast.
Well, I created portions of the internet, so that's how I function out here.
Well, we're going to go through this Super Bowl thing that's coming up this weekend. We'll try
Woo!
to get and cover as many different ways. I've had a bit of a change of heart now that it's been over a week since we've watched NFL football. And I'm very curious in how you've seen things so
Mm.
far, but I might as well say the number here because that is generally what we do on a betting podcast. So we initially started with a number of San Francisco, LOL. The Patriots I initially saw as a 5-point underdog with a
Yeah.
total of 46. We saw that maybe climb to 46 and a half, but we've seen some movement, and some of it's due to rumor, some of it's due to I'm not even sure. I saw that the spread dropped from 5 to 4.5. We're back to 5, but our total is now down a half of a point to 45 and a half, which the most bet football game and most bet sporting event of the year. I'm surprised to see the under money coming in, but do you have an idea of why that's occurring?
Um, Probably the logic that uh yeah, Seattle's looked really, really good. Um, and the Rams game is probably like it's pretty much, the Rams are the team that can score on Seattle. Other than that, like they've been pretty dominant all year. And I think potentially looking at Darnold and of Vrabel kind of narrative there of 2 weeks to try to confuse or make Darnold see some ghosts. I'm not implying that that's what's going to happen. But I think you could have a slow start. You could have two teams feeling each other out, using one of the best defenses that we've seen in a very, very, very long time against a coach that, in the past was able to confuse the starting quarterback for the Seahawks. So I see where the total is where it's coming from completely. If anything, I definitely see a slow start for sure for both teams.
Well, what do you think about this Drake May shoulder injury stuff?
Yeah, that's what I figured. I thought that's where we might go. Um, it's just convenient that it comes out now, right? Like, so he's been. I would assume that most people are not healthy at this point, and yes, you still get you get a week off here
I
to.
mean, Lord knows I'm not healthy. Yes.
None of us are healthy at all, no matter what we're doing, but especially if you've been playing football for nearly 5 months.
Just watching it,
We're,
but yeah, I'm not healthy either.
um, yeah, that's. I think we're in for a pretty rough Super Bowl if Drake May's shoulder is actually beat up. And I'm curious where you were going to go. You said you've had a change of heart. I think most people looking at this game are on one side. So if you're
Well,
saying I've had a
let's
change of
let's
heart,
diagnose this before I give you the special sauce
okay,
that I've been feeling. So, when we think about the New England Patriots as a 5-point underdog, our strengths are that they can stop the run, right?
yeah,
They have a very talented quarterback.
yep,
They have a coach who's known for underdog savior behaviors, killing the Patriots dynasty, even though he's part of it and now is restarting it or attempting to with a Tennessee team that was just ground and pound way back when, as my camera's doing its thing again.
yep.
Haven't taken any drinks, so I don't know how it's happening, but we're here. Um, and then they were 4-13 last year. So they spent, but they didn't really build a championship caliber team. They built a team that was good, faced a really easy schedule, and they've survived some of the worst defense or most difficult defenses, some of the worst defenses to play in the league. And this is another one. So you could argue that they're used to this a little bit, but that's to me where the strengths are. Are there any others that you think of?
Hmm. I mean, you nailed those pretty well. I would say that they don't they're not going to get rattled by having to, kind of get in the mud, if I can use that cliche. Like you alluded to it, but and I agree. I think I think they know what they are. I think and that's the sign of a well-coached team. I think they could handle, we've seen their offense be pretty anemic. And so I think they have confidence in that, in those moments that they'll be able to figure out a way to win. Um, I the whole injury thing though, just thinking back to the Broncos game, even before it became just an absolute blizzard snowstorm, there were some throws that Drake May was making that I was like, okay, I've not seen this guy make those kinds of throws or those kinds of mistakes, and just the accuracy issues on pretty simple throws without really a lot of pressure. That when I see that, I'm like, huh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I could see that being a problem. Um, yeah, I feel like you and I are kind of aligned. I think going after the two championship games, I think it was pretty obvious for a lot of people. The narrative was all about the Seahawks and what they've accomplished, which has been amazing. So I assume most people, and we saw the market move a little bit, right, or going to five. I think the look ahead. I don't think the look ahead was five. I would say the look ahead was probably 3.5, maybe. Um,
One of those things I wish I charted, but I can look that up while we're here. Now, since I did the
um,
Patriots, I want you to do the strengths of the Seahawks.
Phew, okay, there's a lot of them. We're looking at a defense that's potentially, one of the best of all time, based off of DVOA, which is a metric of evaluating defensive efficiency. This defense is ranking up there with, like Ravens teams of 2 decades ago. Like this DVOA matches and ranks teams from all sorts of different eras. And this defense is one of the most efficient of all time. They're able to get after the pass, they're able to get after the quarterback. There's no real weakness on the defense. Sam Darnold has, I mean, he looked great against the Rams. He's shaken off any sort of questions of his, or even the turnovers that he had during the regular season. He's been great during the postseason. The running game looked really good last week. I mean, obviously it's not all of it without a Charbonnet who's out for a while, but I think the defense is good enough to win a championship, even if it was, even if it was Jared Stidham as their quarterback. I think they might
Did
be
he?
able to win a
I mean, that
championship.
guy was horrible. Okay, so we got a good defense. Rush defense, pass defense, all of it.
Yeah,
What about offense?
that's where you start to have to. Um, that's why we get paid the big bucks, because this is where you have to evaluate.
All our sponsors.
Yes, thank you to all those sponsors. We
Tag
appreciate
your
it.
sponsors. No tags.
Uh,
Okay.
but I think this is where the game is won, right? Like if you kind of what you talked about, if you see the Patriots and their coach as someone who can rattle Sam Darnold, and pick and choose their spots to affect this offense, then I think the Patriots have a pretty good shot at covering this number and pulling off an upset. If you think the Sam Darnold that we've seen in two playoff games is that guy now, and like that's what he's going to be in the biggest game of his life, then you should just take the Seahawks, not worry about it. Because if he's going to play like he did against the Rams, this is going to be a rout.
So look at numbers, look like 3.5, as you said.
Yep.
Seattle -3.5, with a lot of juice on New England from the juices that I've seen so far in the moments that you were speaking. Total is about the same in the 45.5, 46 range. So not a huge difference. I feel like coming out of the championship weekend games, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what you can take from a Blizzard game and playing a backup quarterback and all that sort of stuff. It was on the road, so that's something. Um, I was really struggling to get this number to three. So seeing five was uh, a little bit ludicrous. I do think
Mm-hmm.
that the Super Bowl has some, I mean, underdogs have killed it in the Super Bowl recently. I think three straight up wins in a row or something like that. Um, Maybe not because of the Chiefs being about a 1 point favorite, but I guess if you think about it, they underdog covered before overtime against the 49ers way back
Yeah.
when.
Right.
Um, all those sort of things. what I just have noticed is that underdogs really of 2 points are, I feel like, are a decent bet, but numbers like this where there's plenty of room to win this game and not cover for Seattle. That was my initial thought is that this number is gigantic. Looking at the
Hmm.
weather, 65 degrees predicted on Sunday as a high, low of 49. Of course, out west, that's earlier out there, so weather should be more stable. There is a projected light rain, 20%, which I don't know who that bothers more. Maybe the guy with the less playoff starts and the worse shoulder situation, or is it the guy with the oblique who just floated out some news out there before his playoff debut this year? So I don't really know what to say. Um, I don't know how much the arm matters when Drake May's running because we don't really, I don't see Sam Darnold doing that. And so I think in general, for me, the idea is that the perception I thought was extremely pro Seattle when we got out of the championship weekend, and you could argue that's because one team played a team with a pulse and one team played with one that was on its deathbed. But honestly, the Broncos defense was still awesome, I thought, even before the weather showed up. Um, Better win certainly was Seattle. I don't know that it was more impressive because they got outgained, out yard per play, won the turnover battle, and that seemed to be the difference. And if the Rams convert a 4th and 4 or whatever, maybe they win that game, and certainly we're in place to cover the spread. Um, I didn't really take that Seattle was that dominant off of championship weekend. Did you feel that way? Or
Well,
that would be that dominant based on the point spread in the Super Bowl?
I think it depends on. I think going into that game, you and I both felt like, well, most people, but I felt like the Rams and the Seahawks to me were the two best teams in the league. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that when we talk about Sunday's game, that doesn't mean the Patriots can't win it because it's a 60-minute sample size. You've got all these different elements. I just think like those two teams have proven throughout the season. So for Seattle to come out and look really good and take care of business, yes, you're right. Like they had to get a fourth down stop with the Rams at the goal line. There was the muffed punt. They definitely had some pieces go their way. And yeah, if they probably if that punt isn't dropped, they probably don't. Rams are probably in this game.
I mean,
But
they
I
were
think just
definitely in it. They were definitely in it for sure.
so yeah, and that's kind of what yes, I I think that's why I was like, okay, well, I'm impressed with both of these teams. I think going even into championship week, I was like, I like both of these teams, but we're like you said, we're dealing with a that's pretty much how most of the market feels, or that's how like the public sentiment is, which is just an uncomfortable feeling that you kind of have to evaluate as the week goes on. Like, okay, everybody feels this way. Am I about to lean into it, or is this just kind of noise? Um, because the more you look at, it's interesting. I felt the same as the public coming out of those games. I was like, yeah, man, I'm not sure about if New England's going to be able to have a chance. And as we've gone on more, I'm like, you know what? I want this talk to keep I want this to keep happening because I think there could be some value on the Patriots closer we get to kickoff.
Well, it's so funny because I came out as being I'm 1000% playing Patriots first half, full
Hmm.
game, and under full first half and full game.
Yeah.
And I think I've soured considerably to the Patriots side.
Is
Um,
that from the injury or is that just
I mean,
because
that
you
is not a good thing because I mean, any backup in the Super Bowl is not going to work. But I think I mean, I've been pretty anti-Patriots for this entire playoffs. It's not worked
yeah.
out very well for me that I don't really know. I mean, we did get a cover on the Broncos, so it's not been hopeless. And if CJ Stroud just knew what team he played for, I mean, I don't, that
Yeah.
was let's not forget the Texans were leading until a ridiculous pick six, which was not, you cannot blame on a slippery football. That was just
No.
bad decision making. And honestly, I was starting the shouts or the Davis Mills chants at that point.
Yeah.
And the opener, I mean, they didn't do much against the Chargers defense, who's also really good. So it's something to win against those good defenses, and they got another one coming. But
Yeah.
um, it's
But
weird. I was very surprised by the number, and felt like the narrative and seeming like everyone I listened to or read about was really like this is just going to be a walkover. And I don't know that that's I'm contrarian, so that doesn't ever really impact what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to go through like the strategy of the Patriots here. So Mike Vrabel has always been a run the football, Derrick Henry basically, and he probably, I mean, if they got married, they'd probably be like not together, but if they got married, I imagine one would be the best man at the other's wedding because like that's literally he relied on that guy for everything, and it was so good for that team. And then hilarious, the Titans ended up deciding that they should move on. But from so the question I would ask you, if that is available at this moment, if you're Mike Vrabel on that first drive, when you have this vaunted Seattle defense that is so, so strong, are you starting immediately by going with your roots and trying to play smash mouth football and seeing how it
Hmm.
goes? Or are you trying to trick people from like the beginning with a bunch of play actions or some potential like second look things or just not pounding the football up the middle with Ramondre Stevenson? Because I feel like that's if we get into that mindset, of course, I like to think backwards from the end of the game, but I do think that dictates how this game will go, how the total will feel, how playing the Patriots side, all those sort of things. Because if you're trying to finesse or trick Seattle, I think in that first Patriots drive, whether it's when I imagine they win the toss, they defer. But I imagine the defensive coach on the other side wants that too. So it's almost like whoever wins the toss is kicking off. How do you
Yeah.
approach that first drive if you're New England?
I think it says a lot about how what Drake May's ability is going to be. Um, I because yeah, that would be smart, but and maybe they do it no matter what. Maybe if even if Drake May's shoulder is like not 60%, maybe you still say, "Hey man, this is the best you're going to feel all night." Obviously, they're going to be doing everything they can to get him
Right.
ready to go. So, the first half is potentially where he may be at his best if there is in fact something really wrong there. Um, and so yeah, then you should go play action. And there's no guarantee it's going to work though if he's not feeling healthy enough to do it. So I I think what we're going to get a lot out of from the Patriots is we're going to understand. I don't think Vrabel's going to be able to conceal how he feels about this matchup pretty early. Like I think if he does go ground and pound, like where and by the way, like I just remember he was the king of it would be like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and like Tannehill would just be able to create on 3rd down. Um, I think I still think like he could just follow that normal MO and potentially compete. But if he goes in and like is conservative and is ground and pound at the start, then to me that says like, okay, he feels pretty good about his ability to contain Darnold. Um, I feel like if he, so you know what, as we're saying that, I just think he just needs to go conservative, go ground and pound, either way, because if Drake May's not healthy enough to do it, then you have a better shot going with that. I truly like you and I are so aligned on like what we think about him as a coach, Mike Vrabel, and you know, yes, they've. I was trying to look through their schedule of like what defense did they perform the best against, and it's pretty rough to like find a good example. But this is like a 1 game sample. You know what I mean? Like there's so much at stake here. What there's
Off the top of my head, I would say the Bills in
like
Buffalo was probably the most impressive that I think Drake May was all season against a quality
yeah,
opponent, or
he's like
the
didn't
win
play
in
really any
Tampa.
good defenses
The win in
until
Tampa, I think. I mean, you could argue
yeah,
the Bucks weren't a good defense, but I think what we saw there was a lot of really good plays and a really important fourth down and how they managed the clock towards the end. So my thought was that Vrabel is Vrabel. He might try to throw a touchdown to a linebacker in the end zone or something like that at some point, just because that's what he did when he was playing for the Patriots himself way back when.
yeah,
But I think I don't think there's gonna be any tricks. I think he's gonna try until he's forced to. I think that is we're here. We weren't really expected to get here. We're not changing it now. And so I think that either works, and if you're running the football a ton, that NFL clock will just motor. And
yeah,
that's really good for under. Pretty
yeah,
good for an underdog as well. Um, if he tries to run the ball and is getting absolutely nothing against a Seattle front line, which is possible that that occurs, then I start to get concerned about what's going to happen. And to me, I mean, I've been a lot of my fantasy season was watching and trying to decide when to start Zach Charbonnet. And Zach or Jack. And I never started either of them the entire season because I never felt good about that offensive line and how they ran the
Hmm.
football. Um, I feel like K9, Kenneth Walker's numbers are going to look good because he's the only option that they have, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be efficient or the yards per play are going to be worth it or DVOA is going to say anything. So to me, there's a dominant defense on the Seattle side. There's a really good rush defense on New England. So there's going to be two defensive coaches that are just all of a sudden going to pass all the time to try to like trick the other team or find edges that way. Like I'm a little bit concerned for a lot of America that the commercials are going to be the highlights of this game, and everyone's going to be at Super Bowl parties telling everyone to shut the F up because like the game's going to be so boring as we punts everywhere, and that 3-3 like fourth quarter game between the I think the Rams and the Patriots way back when
Yeah,
the Pats were huge underdogs, like that might be our scenario here, and.
yeah,
At points, certainly the same way I initially thought, but I do have more fear that this is a game where Seattle has a competent quarterback. I think we've certainly been negative. I've been negative about Sam Darnold for a while, but ever since watching him in college and knowing how good of an arm he has and where he can put the football, like he's got it for sure.
yeah,
And he's got JSN, who I think is by leaps and bounds the best wide receiver in this game. I imagine that's also going to be the focus of the Patriots is let Cooper Cup's corpse beat us. But like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, my fear is that if the Pats fall behind, they either have to change things or they just keep running into the stone wall. And Seattle at some point might just be like, all right, good luck, Drake. We're not going to let you scramble, try to throw with this hurt arm of yours. And so I guess that is where the injury is coming in, where I'm thinking if this starts to, if it starts ugly, then do we see a change in type of strategy or style? And
Yeah,
let's not forget, this is a 23-year-old quarterback who's a franchise quarterback, and they're going to do everything they can to keep this guy as healthy and not risk, I think, stuff for the future, even though the Super Bowl is what you play for.
yeah. That's tough. I just can't imagine he's going to be okay, like okay with that. He's obviously well enough to play, and so if I'm him, or I'm like, get out of here. It does not matter. Like this could be a once in a lifetime chance. As you were talking, I was starting to think about like what Seattle's offensive approach is. And if I'm them, I follow the same mentality that I had against the Rams. Like, go for it. Be aggressive. I think about that last drive, or last it was probably, yeah, it was the last drive,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
basically. Where
Could
they,
have just ran it up the middle and didn't.
they didn't. They put the ball in Darnold's hands. They were, using bootleg, play action. Like I think there's ways you can still be aggressive with Darnold and still allow him, keep him in check, kind of, if that makes sense. Like with those kinds of bootlegs, giving him some easy options there, but being aggressive. I because I think like you say, okay, we're gonna go for this. Darnold, let's get you in rhythm. Let's get you some confidence, like you've had these other couple games. Because I think like if you get a lead, if you get a two-score lead, even I'm talking 10 points. Whew, that defense. And yes, the Rams know how to beat them, but I'm skeptical of other teams being able to be able to keep up against that defensive front. I think that if you're going to allow that, if it becomes predictable that you're going to have to throw it, you don't have Matthew Stafford back there. Drake May is going to be really really good, but yeah, I if I'm the Seahawks, I just go for it. Stay aggressive. Don't play the game that Vrabel wants you to play, which is interesting because obviously their coach is defensive minded as well.
And has been
Um,
very conservative in places to
and
not be
other times,
conservative,
yep.
literally until last weekend or
Except,
whatever.
yeah, right. That's kind of like it's still that you're trying to shake off, like, okay, what we just saw most recently.
Like punting when he shouldn't,
Yep,
never ever wanted to go for it. Really conservative down calls. It felt to
yep,
me as well. And I think it stems from, I don't really know like offensive coordinators, but I imagine the head coach is saying we're not going for it on fourth down. So the OC makes a different call on third down than he would if he had a second down to play with. Um, I'm thinking that I mean, you could be right in that direction, but I also think Seattle thinks that they're the best team here and they play the way they've played all season and they're not changing anything until they're in
yep,
trouble. Their goal is to get
yep.
up two scores because they know their defense is going to hold, and it's very unlikely for New England to get back. What I see is, I mean, Do you know who led the NFL in turnovers this season?
Yeah, Sam Darnold.
Geno Smith was even 2 turnovers ahead of him, if you
Yeah,
will, behind
yeah.
him or whatever. So
He had
like
like 20 interceptions, didn't he? Or just 20
I think
turnovers?
20, including fumbles,
Okay.
and I think it was 18 for Geno Smith. But whether those numbers are right, who knows? And they're just part of the narrative at this point, I think that I'm hearing. But a lot of Sam Darnold's turnovers had been in games where they had big leads, and all of a sudden made me very nervous backing Seattle. I can think of the Texans game for sure, which
Yeah.
now that looks maybe not so bad, considering how good and strong the Texans defense was. But when you have big leads, that's not what you should be doing. So that feels like to me a little bit of a danger zone for any Seattle backers or under players if New England can't do anything offensively and Sam Darnold's going to make those mistakes. But you got to also assume that they're not going to let that happen. This is the most important game of most of these people's lives, and they're not going to all of a sudden say, "Yeah, Sam, let's keep pedal to the metal when we got a 14-3 lead or something like that."
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the start of this game is really important. I don't know if that means second half numbers are of interest, but I don't really see a. The problem is that if a team falls behind the NFL with a quality quarterback, they can get in that back door pretty easily. Or if there's a much bigger number based on being behind a lot at halftime, then it's hard to see that in a Super Bowl when you're just trying to run the clock out because who cares how much you win by? You just need to
Right.
win. If that
Right.
makes things any sort of different from either perspective. So, I mean, I do think that if and I wonder if the Pats are ahead at halftime, let's say,
Mm.
I mean that would mean certainly Seattle will be favored in the second half. We would all suspect, but like, is that our place to buy in on Seattle because we don't expect the Patriots to be able to hold on? Because I mean, to me,
Mm.
Super Bowl teams are built on depth and what you sign from year to year and just having and spending no money last season and spending a bunch this year with a new coach like that's something but I don't think the depth is there in the same way and I think we've seen that or maybe we haven't seen it because the schedule's been so easy for New England but
Yeah.
at this point I don't know like there are a lot of scenarios where I feel like there's the under hits. And I don't know that there's a lot of scenarios where I feel great about New England because there are plenty of scenarios where I feel like they have an injured quarterback or maybe just a guy that's, I mean, you could argue Sam Darnold's never really been here either. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm falling into the narrative that the Seattle team had already won the Super Bowl last week because they played in it and beat the only other team that should be able to win it. But I also feel like that narrative is about a lot about the Broncos not having a competent quarterback starting.
Yeah. I think this is a good exercise to think about, okay, if the Patriots have a one possession lead, whatever, 3 or 4 points at halftime, what 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 am I going to look at for second half? I'm probably in that moment. I mean, it's hard to, if it's yeah, it's hard to game this all out, but I think my first instinct would just be like, okay, I'm going to ride with the Patriots again because I
Oh,
think both like I think that that's exactly what they want because then
sure.
you can get Darnold pressing a little bit. Then you can that's playing right into the trap of what New England could probably do in that space. I do think it is fair to like to bring up that the Patriots played in two straight just horrendously terrible weather games. Um, because the weather in Foxborough for the Texans game was awful too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably would look under. I would stay under. I know we'll probably talk about the total at some point. Um, I think like if Seattle's leading at half, I think I'd probably just whoever is leading at half, I'm just going to ride with them. Unless it's like if Seattle's up big at halftime, um,
That changes, of course.
yeah, it does change things. But if it's like a one score game and it doesn't really look like Seattle has like dealt with they've been able to answer the call against Vrabel's defenses. I don't know what other curveball New England's going to be able to bring out to like change things in the second half. So
I feel like if it is a close game, I don't really see the Patriots coming back from a halftime deficit unless I
yeah,
see certainly second half interest if it's a lopsided game and then there's a wider back door or something like that.
yep,
But
yep,
I think Seattle has the ability to come back with a defense with um, a deeper, I think, offense. because I think their quarterback is fine, and I think I've seen him perform a lot better than I expected throughout these playoffs. Yes, one was a blowout against the current jersey I'm wearing, but the Rams' performance was good, and that was something we needed to see, I think. Though one day doesn't essentially rid us of a lifetime or a career of ineptitude or questions. Um, I feel like the Pats are strong ahead, but they've been ahead for a lot of the season, and I don't really know that I trust, especially with whatever this injury report is saying. I mean, line hasn't budged, which it would probably take a lot for it to move if all of a sudden there's real concern on him being injured.
Yeah.
But if we're seeing 6 on New England, what I was initially saying was, oh, that's a definite buy price for me. Now I'm thinking about
Mm,
it because that would
yeah.
suggest to me that there's a fair amount of belief out there that he's not okay.
Right. Yeah. I think I totally agree. That's like one of those, okay, what am I missing here? What does someone know? And plus, like, there's just like we just talked about with the second half, especially in this kind of game, there's so many different ways to attack. You don't have to put your neck out there pregame unless you have just an incredible edge. Um, we have the ability now to look at the pace of the game or whatever's happening in those moments and then make a better educated decision based off of what we've seen from these two coaches. It's kind of like in poker or whatever, showing a card. You have more information to decide in that moment. The important thing is that you have these kinds of conversations where you talk about, like, okay, what would I do if this is the case? Um, because yeah, like this is an exciting one. I think, like, we've been talking about both these teams for so long that you have a pretty good understanding of their identity and what they're trying to do. And so whatever, in this game, one game sample, whatever starts happening is like it's a pretty big tell of, okay, like I I don't know how this game goes over. I like I every time someone says that, then it's like, obviously, okay, it's definitely going over,
Big
right?
plays,
But like,
turnovers, but I think there is a premium.
yeah, it'd have to be
So tell me
turnovers.
about the numbers. So we're 45 and a half from down from 46.
Yeah,
I made it 56 or excuse me, 46.54. So I was right around here.
yeah,
Where are important numbers and where
yeah. I mean, 45 is like the usual key. Although I think, like, we've kind of moved more towards, with elite teams and good offenses, I think 48 is probably a better key number there. Um, but 45 is probably the most popular one. What's pretty telling, though, is if you look at the first half total is 21 and a half. So, like, I mean, you're still getting,
that's a slow start.
yeah, you're still getting, obviously this would be 22 and a half if it were perfectly aligned. Although,
Symmetrical. Yeah.
yeah, there's not a lot of games that are, finishing at the half at 22 points. So, there's still something there. But I think most people are thinking what we're thinking here with the slow start, maybe, two boxers kind of feeling each other out for the first little bit. Um, and this is what makes me uncomfortable because I watched the game against the Rams and say, okay, that's an outlier.
That is what people saw, and they also saw a big high-scoring game between the Rams and the Seahawks the second time they played after a
Yeah.
very low-scoring game thanks to 4 turnovers from the league leader in turnovers.
Whereas, and then you have the Patriots, and who have really, they should have gone under the whole playoffs. The Texans game just doesn't add up because of the turnovers and just kind of
Yeah, yeah.
chaos there. I guess you can't say definitely we should have gone under, but like the turnovers changed that whole thing, so it's hard to speculate. Um, so yeah, I mean, we always talk about totals aligning with certain teams. Do you think it's as simple as that for this one too?
I mean, I don't love the idea. I think I'd much prefer playing unders with one over team and one under team,
Yeah.
because I feel like that you end up finding some extra value there potentially. But I mean, this is a Super Bowl. This is probably the best number that they can make because they know if they're wrong, they will lose these sports books. But at the same time, the amount of over money that's coming in, even with two good defenses, like I think is forever going to overpower. I'm certainly not buying my under now. I'll be waiting to see if a 45 pops because that will be a sign to me if this number continues to fall. especially if there's no move on the total, or excuse me, on the side, because that's telling me that there's more faith in Drake May's elbow, arm, shoulder, whatever than there is.
Is it
Um,
elbow or shoulder? Do you know, like, what's the?
so, I mean, it's all speculation. I haven't heard, and it
Okay.
seems to me like there's Patriots fans out there that are concerned, but they would, of course, be. So I don't know that that really changes much. It's something to me that the spread has only maybe moved a half of a point.
Yep.
And if the totals fall in that same half, then that is the expectation that New England's going to score half a point less, which is probably okay, and is what it is. But I'm expecting this number to move up, both spread and total, into kickoff on Sunday. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. You know what? Actually, I mean, I don't know if we're going to see a lot of movement on the side.
I just want like who's betting the Patriots anytime soon until they have some sort of clear
No.
injury report with any significant money. I don't think anybody is. So I don't see how that falls. If it does,
No.
then that's very, very respectful of New England. But
No.
I don't know where that would happen from, is kind of where I'm
No.
coming from.
I think I think you could wait if you want to go under on this total, then probably we should go now. But also don't it doesn't hurt, like you said, it doesn't hurt to wait. 45 and a half, 45, but
Yeah,
you don't want it
the
dropping
push
below
on
45.
40, the push on 45, I'm fine with. That doesn't seem like a huge difference to me. But um, all right, so it's time to make our picks in the game. Time for our
Oh
best
wow.
bets. You are ahead. You are
That
two
was
to
a
one.
fast 38 minutes. Goodness.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay, well, it's the final game. We've had a pretty good run, and
You're 2-1 so far in the playoffs. I have not had much success, unfortunately.
there's no reason to, if it blows up, it blows up. But like I'm gonna go with the side that I feel most confident in, especially in this role. So let's take the Patriots +5. Like you said, it's fine to wait. We're recording this on Monday night, so you could wait later in the week and see what happens. 4.5 is not gonna make much of a difference to me. I wouldn't let it go below 4.5 though. So let's go with the Patriots.
New England +5 for Andrew Schnicker. For my best bet, the real underscore G Warner across all social media platforms. I'm going where I've been telegraphing this whole time, and that is the under 45 and a half. I'll be waiting for it, waiting to see it climb 46 or higher. I don't know that we're getting much higher than that, but 46 and a half sounds nice. 47, eh? Some big money coming in on Sunday. Who knows? But to me, I'm less about the key numbers of totals, just trying to get in there with the best number you can get of it all. So grab the New England Patriots +5 correlated to the under 45 and a half. And let's try to get a double best bet winner to close our season and join you next season on the Betting Pitch NFL podcast. Presented to you by all of our sponsors and Aiden Schnicker and his happy family. Good night.